Simplicity is about subtracting the obvious and adding the meaningful. John Maeda. My friends, let's look into these charts today. We see stocks and bonds are up. Gold and Bitcoin are down. And when I say stocks are up, they're barely up. Let's look at what the Heikin Ashi candlesticks are showing us on the weekly chart. We can see where things rolled over on the S&P. And again, the Heikin Ashi candlestick. Have you guys taken our Heikin Ashi candlestick training? If you have not, or if you haven't in a while, I'm going to post it at the end of today's video. We've got two Heikin Ashi trainings. The first is our old one, several 100,000 views, although I would encourage you to watch this one first, the one I'm going, the newer one. It's updated and even better, and I'm going to put it at the end of today's video, a link to it. You need to understand Heikin Ashi candlesticks, and what I really mean by that is you need to understand the concept of them, so that when you look at a Heikin Ashi candlestick, you actually know what it's telling you. When you understand how it actually is measured and put together, it helps you see the average pace, which is what I'm told Heikin Ashi means in Japanese. It's the average movement. And of course, it is down, even though it was up, is really flat for the day. 0.06% is 0.6%, which is pretty much flat. But you do see, again, where the low was. It, again, was lower than the opening, and that is telling us some things in addition to the candlestick itself. So we still have momentum pressing the market down as far as price goes. So we're, of course, still short the S&P. Now, we did not activate on this trade. We did on the NASDAQ 100. We'll get to that in just 1 minute. But we do see the S&P is moving down. Hasn't hit the low of last week yet that we see on the candlestick on the prior week with all that volume. But we do, of course, see things moving down. So our position would be short on this. Now we can see for, 2 days it was trying to edge up a little bit as far as the average pace goes, but still all that pressure and all that weight of that down movement where the market capitulated with all that volume, hit that interim high. That was on the week that began the 5th of July, so 2 weeks ago. So again, we still have a lot of weight pushing the S&P down. Now, and again, 2-day chart and the half-day chart are well below that prior weekly trend line, which we will go ahead now since we have a new candle that has started, and we can get something more than a flat trend line, and we will redraw. Now, again, if things were just flat, I wouldn't do it. I would still keep that old line just to let me know where things had been and how much things had fallen off. Now, let's go to the Qs. This is the NASDAQ 100. See how flat that was? Did that help us out much last week? No. So we will now update that and redraw it. About the same on the NASDAQ 100, that is the big tech stocks. Look at all that volume last week leading this down. This was a trade that we did initiate. In fact, I initiated a short position here, and we have already been watching that as it moved. This is the I'm sorry, wrong one. That's SH. I did initiate this move and again cashed out on that in the morning on Thursday. Went ahead and stayed in. We're seeing if this again going to have a bit of a lapse after all of that prime up movement. See if it then regains and shoots higher, or if at some point we go ahead and pull the second half of the trade and get out. But in that very short period of time, we made a nice 2.76% on that trade. And again, I encourage you to practice trade these things with us. Doesn't cost you anything to do it. We're not asking to initiate any kind of money trade. Why? Because we are not a stock calling service. We are an education firm. We want you to get educated with us. Now, as we look at the Qs, of course, we can see we haven't reached the low of last week. Volume starting off very slow. We look at what's going on the 2-day. And again, the 2-day candle is finished drawing. It was the Friday, Monday, retracted a little bit. Again, didn't hit that low as before. We can see where things were up some in the morning and then pairing that off in the afternoon, 0.20%. So again, not a lot going on there. So let's keep moving. We are still short, of course, and in our trade on the NASDAQ 100. What do we see going on with 20-year bonds? Well, we can see that they are up over 0.5% for today. Again, haven't liked bonds lately. We've not been in a bond trade for a while because we haven't had any volume to help us. We talked about this candle at the end of last week. Let me move this line out of the way so we can see it. And of course, you had a doji there. Did not have much volume to help you out there. Nothing that would make us want to jump into a trade and see anything, of course, going down. We didn't have enough volume here. We had high volume with that green doji, and then when things tried to turn over, didn't have average volume to key us into a down move. And then those two prior weeks, beginning the 8th of July and the 15th of July, tried to move up some, a dead week last week. So again, nothing cueing us in on anything happening on bonds. So we'll just keep our powder dry, wait till bonds sort themselves out, and we can find some beautiful trades like this up trade that we did, initiating back on the 30th of October, which ended up being a gorgeous long move. Remember, we're in the summertime trading zone, so things can stink this time of year. Let's move on to gold. Gold pulling back some, 0.14%. Now, we saw gold do what? It moved up. Looks like it bounced off the ceiling that we initiated. Whenever you see a purple line on our charts, it means either a ceiling or a floor. Gold had bounced off that once before. It looks like it's trying to do it again. I can't get a really good read on it. We did have this interim high. We did have this doji. So again, should things be moving down in gold? They very well may be. We talked about on Friday initiating a trade in that. I chose not to because nothing on that was super strong for me. And again, with things that are going on in the market, I just didn't feel comfortable in going negative on gold. There is no inverse fund for gold, so you would have to initiate a put, an option trade, and that just didn't suit my fancy. Now, maybe some of you did, or maybe you're just practice trading a short to see if it goes in your direction. So again, keep following it. Gold down a little bit for the day. Maybe that will accelerate. If it does, then of course you may have a reason for pulling the trigger. Let's lastly take a look at Bitcoin, down for the day. 1.10% is our biggest downer for the day. 24-hour a day Bitcoin's down 1.39 right now. Although you can see Bitcoin is moving higher, means you can see where it hit a higher high. Again, last week the high was 77.30. This week 78.89. Even though it is down right now for Bitcoin, you had all that action in the morning and then tapering off in the afternoon, but Bitcoin still moving in the right direction. Look at that. It's keeping that trend line up quite accurately. So again, moving in the right direction. We saw Bitcoin bounce off this purple ceiling, way back here in March. And then it sort of has slid along, then down, then popped back up, didn't get quite to it, and then down strong. And now it's building up again, so we will keep an eye on it. You have questions, problems, concerns, we're always happy to hear from you. CW@chartingwealth.com. We are short on the NASDAQ 100 right now. The Qs may be very well rolling over right now. It's really not doing much for us. Gold may be rolling over. Don't know if that's going to happen. And again, the S&P, trying to, but pretty weak. The NASDAQ still decently strong. Don't know what the hell bonds are up to. Gold weakening. Maybe it's going to roll over. And Bitcoin, again, even though it's down for the day, it is continuing to push up to higher highs. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World headquarters.